They made one firm decision yesterday, Dan, and that is that that game will not be played. That game will be canceled. And so the ramifications of that, they will then vote on a proposal today. You pick it up from there, Dan. What are they proposing to do and why?
So because two teams will 18 games and everybody else will have played 17, there are potential inequities in the final standings that they felt the need to address. Now, these are proposals that are approved by the NFL's competition committee, and there will be a vote today of all 32 team owners, and if 24 of the 32 approve, then these proposals will move forward. Number one is that the AFC Championship game, if it involves two teams that played an uneven number of games and both could have had a chance to be the host team, will be played at a neutral site. This happens if Buffalo and Kansas City both win this weekend, or if Buffalo and Kansas City both lose this weekend. And what happens is if that occurs and Buffalo and Kansas City meet in the AFC Championship game, that game would be played at a neutral site. Additionally, if Buffalo and Kansas City both lose this weekend and Cincinnati wins, and then Cincinnati plays Kansas City in the AFC Championship game, that game would be played at a neutral site. And the reason, Greeny, is because in those scenarios, the teams would be within a half game of each other, and because the game was not finished, the team with the worst record was denied an opportunity to win that game and get into a tie that would have made them the host team in the AFC Championship game. So if Buffalo and Kansas City don't do the same thing as each other this weekend, none of this matters. It's all off the table. The other one is if Baltimore beats Cincinnati on Sunday in the first round of the playoffs, the site of that game would be determined by a coin flip. So Cincinnati is the AFC North champion and the 3 seed in this scenario. And Baltimore would be the 6 seed in this scenario if they're playing Cincinnati in the first round. Because Baltimore finished a half game back of Cincinnati, they're the wild card team, but they will be 2-0 against Cincinnati this season if they beat them on Sunday, and therefore have a bit of a gripe saying, you know, if there had been one more game and the Bengals lost it, we would have been division champions. So the way the league is trying to correct this is giving Baltimore a coin flips chance, a 50-50 chance of being the host team in that game.
So those are the two biggest pieces of this. Let me bring it out to the table. Dan's going to stay with us here, and we'll continue to ask him questions, but I'll bring it here for some reaction. To be clear, again, by canceling the game from Monday night, that means the Bengals would not have the opportunity to lose it. Had they lost that game, then the Ravens would have had a chance to play for the division championship. So that's the reason that they're doing it there. There is a provision, for those who are wondering, there is a provision in the NFL rules of how they would handle the event of a game that is canceled, which is to say a game that is just not played, as this one was not the other night, because of unforeseen circumstances. And the rule actually states that they would just pretend it never happened and they would go on about everything. If the game is canceled, a team standing in its division or conference shall be determined on the basis of its final record. When necessary, playoff tiebreakers will be calculated according to per-game averages for all teams. That's not what they're choosing to do here. They're choosing to go in a slightly different direction, or at least they're proposing to go in a slightly different direction. I'm sure you're wondering, has this ever happened before? The answer is it has. The last time was 1935 is the last time that two teams played fewer games than any other in the league. So it's not something they've had to deal with for almost 90 years. So, RC, as an analyst, as a former player, as one who had home field advantage and had to go on the road in so many big playoff games, what is your thought on the proposal that they are putting forth?
Well, I think it's a proposal that the NFL is trying to implement based on being human, right? Not necessarily taking into account that this is just some normal game that was canceled and a normal reason it was canceled. It's trying to find a way to, I believe, at least put this in place in an empathetic way. And they do understand that if the game is finished, we have more clarity. And obviously, this would be much easier if that game was Cleveland and Indianapolis, right? No one would care. But from the sense of the seeding, it seems that the seeding is going to go according to the rule. They're now putting things in place and certain addendums if these 3 teams match up, which is the problem, right? This game was so important and we were so into it because it was going to to decide first seeds and third seeds and home field advantage. And so the NFL is looking for a way to say, okay, this is the fairest way we could do it based on the circumstances of why the game was canceled. Now, if you're a team that feels like you had an opportunity to host the first round, or if you're the Cincinnati Bengals and you might have to go on the road to play the Baltimore Ravens, of course you're upset. Of course you want every competitive advantage that you can possibly get. The difference is, in this case, you believe you've earned it, right? You believe you've earned to host the first round of the playoffs if you end up being the number one, if you end up being the AFC North champion. You believe you've earned the right to play, if you're Buffalo, to be the host of the AFC Championship game. So that is going to upset you in the sense of saying that I went out and what I did on the field says I earned these things and I deserve them. But we also have to understand what the NFL is being faced with in this sense. The NFL is faced with not only making a decision that allows you to get a Super Bowl champion, but making that in a way that doesn't make them a tyrant. And I believe, as someone who is an NFLPA executive member and doesn't really fool with the league in that way, for the first time I can say I understand the difficulty in what they're faced with.
What do you think, Nick?
Listen, there's not going to be a winner in this situation. They're trying to make the best of a terrible situation. And if you're the Buffalo Bills, it doesn't, who cares if we lost home field? Who cares if we lost the number one seed? All we want is our teammate to be healthy. So if you're a team that would have hosted a home game and now you have to go on the road, guess what? Sometimes life ain't fair.
Yeah.
Things happen in life that you have to deal with, come up unexpectedly, that you're not ready for. And it's just a game. Like, we're talking about a young man's life here. We witnessed something we've never seen before on national television. So I think if you are another team, another fan, you would have some compassion and realize the NFL, there's no perfect situation here. There's no perfect way to do this. You can't make two teams play within a week before the end of the season.
Yeah.
That's not helping the players. That's not in their health, healthy for them.
Right.
So whatever it comes to be, you might have to go on the road.
It's
and win
about
a football
perspective,
game.
though. That's a great point, right? In Buffalo's locker room, who, from what I've heard, was ready to forfeit the game if they were told to go back on the field, it's not going to be a deal, right? They're going to talk about Damar Hamlin, his situation, what he's going through.